20 minutes after I taught this information on a call with one of my clients, $1,000 showed up out of nowhere. Another one of my clients manifested a $15,000 raise 3 days after I gave him this information. I had another client who got a $30,000 raise 1 week after sharing this information, and I had another client who got a promotion less than 24 hours after giving him this information. And that's not all. My client Matt manifested a car in 3 days. My client Adam manifested a $20,000 per month career in about a week. And the information I'm referring to is how to manifest anything that you want, whether it be money, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a promotion. I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that step by step, because manifestation is not luck. Manifestation is not a maze. Manifestation is a recipe. So in this video, I'm going to give you the 9-step formula that I teach my clients to use. I'm gonna go over why most people never actually acquire their manifestations and why manifestation doesn't work for the masses. And I'm gonna go over the one shift that makes manifestation happen instantly. And by the end of this video, you will actually have a blueprint to manifest anything that you want. And no, you don't need years of meditation. You don't need years of manifestation. You don't have to become some spiritual guru for this to work. This can work for anyone. So if you've tried manifesting before and you felt like nothing happened, this video is for you. And I'm about to show you the piece that you've been missing. So watch through to the end and take notes, because the order and sequence of these manifestation steps are everything. This is going to be a complete 9-step blueprint for manifesting your desired reality, whether that be money, whether it be a career, a relationship, whatever you want. And most people treat manifestation like it's some sort of maze, and that's why they never get it right. But it's not really a maze, it's actually a recipe. And manifestation actually has a core process. And most people skip the process and they wonder why nothing materializes, right? They have some sort of vague idea of what they want, but they have no conviction in being able to actually get it, right? So they have no system for internalizing their manifestation and normalizing it. And then they blame the universe when their reality doesn't actually shift. But understand, like I said, it's not a process. And if you have a vague desire, you will get a vague result, right? You have to be convicted, you have to know what you want, and the universe will deliver it to you. So in this presentation, I'm actually going to walk you through the 9 steps you need to go through in order to manifest your desired reality. Now, starting with step 1. Step 1 is you have to get crystal clear clarity, right? Most people have an idea of what they want, as in, I want more money, I want to advance in my career, I want to be in a relationship. But that is not enough, because a vague desire emits a vague frequency, and a vague frequency doesn't get registered by the universe. Now, specificity is exactly what gives you the correspondent frequency. Now, the correspondent frequency gives you the correspondent reality, right? So those two have to match in order for this to work. Now, what you need to know is that everything you want, every manifestation you desire, has a unique product code. So think of your frequency, your self-concept, your state of consciousness. Those are all interchangeable terms, but think of those like a unique product code. When something ships from a warehouse, right? Let's say Amazon. I used to have an Amazon FBA business. The unique code corresponds to one specific product. Now, there's many realities that exist. There's many parallel universes, and basically they all exist within you all at once. But the specific reality that you want requires a specific frequency to match. So if your product code is generic, you will get a generic shipment. If you say, I want more money, and you're making, just for simple numbers, $100 a month, the universe can give you $101, and technically you manifested more money. Technically, your desire has been fulfilled, but that's not actually what you wanted. So you have to get specific, right? For example, let's talk about an iPhone case. Think of an iPhone case. Imagine you're going to Amazon and you just search in the word iPhone case. You can't check out from that point. The site is going to ask you, what iPhone case, what model, what color, what brand. And until you check a specific product, no order is going to ship. And the universe operates in the same way. If you put in a vague request, the page will continue to refresh, but nothing will actually check out. But if you put in a specific request, I want an iPhone 10 iPhone case, I want it to be black, I want it to be OtterBox brand, then the order will be placed and you will get exactly what you desire. right? Another example of this could be, think of Google Maps, right? You cannot just type in New York, right? New York is an entire city. If you put New York in Google Maps, you're gonna get dropped at the entry point of the city, but that's not really where you want it to go, right? You have to be specific and clear about what you want. Now, don't fall into the trap when you go through this of deciding how it has to happen. Because once people do get specific, they make a second mistake. They decide the route, as in, I want this kind of girlfriend, but I have to meet her in the gym. I want more money, but it has to come through my business. The moment you dictate the how, you go from infinite, ways to manifest that desired reality to finite. Understand? Right? You close every other avenue that the universe could have used to deliver you that manifestation. So earlier in my career, for example, I wanted to make 10K a month. Now my business was doing around 5 to 7K a month, in the beginning when I first started. Now I made 10K that month. The month I manifested it. It worked. I actually made 10K, and I didn't do it through my business actually, right? Someone who owed me money actually sent me the money, and I just so happened to be at 7K at the time. And as a result, I hit 10K that month. Now, I would have closed the channel for that other 3K to come through someone owing me money if I locked into this money has to come through my business. But because I was open to infinite possibilities of how that money can, be delivered to me, it was delivered in a way I never really expected. So a practical way to apply this is for you to write out the specific number or the specific role or the specific outcome that you're trying to manifest. Just don't prescribe the route, right? Don't actually dictate how you're going to manifest that desired reality. You need to leave the how open. And if your desire is vague, the universe could fulfill it with a token gesture, right? As in, if you say you want more money and you get $1 more, you manifested more money. So you have to rewrite your desires, your reality you're trying to bring in a very clear and specific way. Now, step 2, you have to match your conviction to your desire. So once you know what you want, the desire and the conviction have to match. Most people skip this step and they wonder why their visualization does not come through, right? People don't take into consideration the frame of reference from which their subconscious mind perceives their desire. Your subconscious mind has a calibration of normality. So to the infinite, there is no big or small. Whatever you believe in, whether it's God, whether it's Buddha, whatever. To him, to that infinite, to the universe, to God, there's no such thing as big and small, right? $1 million is the same thing as a cent to the infinite, but to your subconscious mind, the gap between what you currently experience and what you're asking for is everything. So what you have to do is the 1 out of 10 conviction test. You need to ask yourself immediately and short term on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that I'll have this manifestation by next month? Start with 30 days, right? How likely on a scale of 1 to 10 is it that I will manifest this thing I say I want in the next 30 days? Now, when you're rating it 1 to 10, you have to be honest with yourself. And the first number that comes to mind is the truth. Not necessarily a motivational answer, not what you're saying you want on a conscious level, but the first one. What is the real gut instinct? Do you really have a 10 out of 10 conviction this is going to come through in the next 30 days? Right? If you make $100 a month and you're saying you want to make $1 million a month, the answer is probably a 4 conviction at a max that you can now go from 100 to 1 million. Now, a lot of people get this construed where they say, oh, well, I've been trying to manifest a yacht and a mansion and my dream girl. Meanwhile, they're currently living with their mother and they're making, $5K a month. It doesn't work that way. You have to build up your manifestation muscle. So if you're at a 4 out of 10 conviction, that's not conviction. If your answer is not a 10, it's not conviction. You have to be perfectly and utterly convicted. So again, you have to build your manifestation muscle. So when the conviction doesn't match with what you're consciously saying you want, you have to work backwards until it does. For example, the guy who makes $100 a month and says he wants to make $1 million next month, honest answer, maybe a 4 at the most conviction. What about 500K? going from $100 to $500K next month. What's the conviction on that? Probably still a 4. Now you want to keep stepping down, 500K, 200K, 100K, 50K, 10K, whatever it might be. Keep going down until you know for a fact it's a 10. For example, maybe if you're making $100 a month and you say, you know what, I'm going to manifest $200 a month next month. That's probably a 10 out of 10 conviction, and that's where you want to begin. That's where you want to actually start, right? That's your starting weight in the gym. That's you getting into the gym for the first time, building that manifestation muscle. You need to materialize that, the thing that you have 10 out of 10 conviction on. And then once you do that, your conviction will go up, right? Maybe next month you go from 200 to 1,000. And now that 1,000 feels like a 10 out of 10 conviction for you. So then you manifest that. Then maybe the next month you go to 10K and then more and then more. The manifestation muscle is built in increments, exactly like in the gym, exactly like progressive overload, exactly like physical strength. So that's the key, right? You have to have 10 out of 10 conviction. If you don't, you continue to scale down. Now, belief, aka conviction, that's not enough. Belief contains the seed of doubt by definition, right? And doubt will eventually germinate and contradict your frequency. Conviction is knowing, like knowing 100%, I'm sure of it. Now, confidence is good, but what you really need to manifest is conviction. And anything in your life that you genuinely know for a fact will happen, you tend to materialize that thing. Conviction strengthens the frequency. It actually locks in the self-concept. So the application for you, based on this step, is to 1, run the 1 through 10 test on your current goal. If it's not a 10, you scale back until you find the goal is a 10. Then from there, you materialize that and then use that win to expand on to the next rep. Wanting thought arises, you need to consciously rewire it into the having thought. For example, if you say, I need to make a certain amount of money this month, the second thought would be, I knew I would make X amount of money this month. If your first thought is, I need to close this client, your second thought can be, I'm so grateful I closed this client. If your first thought is, I need to find someone, your second thought can be, I'm so grateful to be with this person. If your first thought is, I need this promotion, your second thought should be, I always knew I'd get this promotion, right? So shift your wants into haves. You need to internalize it. And yes, obviously you might be a doubtful person, right? But you have to build the muscle of constantly shifting your thoughts into haves. Can't control the first, can control the second. Now you can only have what you already have, not in a physical possession, but in a vibrational possession, and the mental and emotional equivalent of being in that reality. So when you possess something within, you can possess it without. But until then, you're only emitting the frequency of not having, and the universe keeps mirroring that back to you. So what you actually have to do as you go through this is expect resistance. Expect it to feel like a challenge, because the old frequency has been rooted in your mind for a very long time. And when you start to emit a new one, the residue from the old one will keep firing thoughts that isolate you from what you want. Now, resistance, when things feel hard, that's not actually difficulty, it's expected friction. Your job is to keep rewriting the second thought. You're going to have friction, but the more you rewrite the second thought, the easier this actually becomes. So practical application for this step would be to catch the next I need thought today, and then immediately rewrite it into a I have, or I knew I'd, or I'm grateful for version. And keep repeating that every time, over and over and over. Now, step 4 is emotional generation. The true language of the subconscious mind is emotion, not repetition. And repetition is the long way around. Trauma can rewire your thought pattern, can rewire the way you see life in an instant, in a single event, because of how emotionally intense a traumatic experience is. And emotional intensity is the positive direction. Emotional intensity in the positive direction works on the same mechanism, just at the opposite polarity. So if you can generate genuine emotional intensity behind your desired reality, your subconscious will shift. When your subconscious shifts, your frequency will shift. And from that, your state of consciousness will shift. And then from that, your reality will shift. So keep in mind, the effect, the materialization of your manifestation comes from the cause, and the cause is your emotional state and your mental state. So anything you want to change in the physical plane needs its emotional and mental equivalent. Keep that in mind. Now, when I say emotion, I don't mean euphoria, right? I don't mean you being high on drugs. I don't mean you being a giddy idiot. Not forced excitement. That's not what I mean. For me personally, it's more a serene confidence. That's the way it is for me. And the feeling needs to be unique to you. So figure out what it would actually feel like for you to be in that reality, and that will be your target. Now, the visualization method. You have to keep this simple. You have to understand your mind is a battery, and every day you start at 100% battery life. Now, extravagant scenes when it comes to visualization, like you on Mount Everest, insane visuals, dramatic camera angles, will drain your battery extremely fast. What you need to do is use simple, high leverage scenes. So what I want you to do when you visualize is this exactly. First, you need to relax, whether it be 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, doesn't matter. However long it takes for your muscles to actually feel relaxed. Do not time this process. Focus on your breath and ignore your thoughts until you're calm. So put all your attention onto your breath. Ignore your thoughts like you would ignore a car driving by. Pay them no mind. And keep coming back to your breath until you're completely calm. Step 2 would be to pick one scene. So you want to visualize somebody that you love, somebody that you care for, acknowledging the materialization of your desire as if it's something that's already done, right? For example, for money, let's talk about, maybe you're trying to manifest money. You can visualize a loved one congratulating you. Wow, you actually did it. You hit 10K this month, congratulations. Hear their voice as they're saying it. See the smiles on their face. Maybe for a promotion, you could say something like, you see someone you love saying, I always knew you were gonna get that promotion, congratulations. Right? For a relationship, maybe you think of like your mother or your sibling saying, she's so great, I'm so happy that you got this woman in your life. That's the way you need to do it. Now, you need to match that specificity from step 1. Remember, a vague scene emits a vague frequency. It needs to be a specific scene with a matched frequency. Now, once you have a specific scene for this visualization process, you're gonna loop it again and again and again. You're just gonna keep replaying that exact same scene over and over and over. Only one scene at a time. Now, this scene can change every single night. It doesn't have to always be the same scene, but when you're doing a visualization process, it has to be one scene looped over and over and over, and you keep doing it until you feel like you're straining. This should not feel like work. But the moment effort enters, your brain waves will then shift from alpha and theta into beta, which is the conscious, alert thinking. And that basically closes the access to your subconscious. So you keep visualizing the scene. You might think, how long do I visualize a scene for? As long as you can do it until it starts to actually feel like work. Now, the reason this works is you're not visualizing to create reality. Visualization does not create reality, but the internal shift that happens during visualization is what creates reality. So the loop scene generates emotion. That emotion shifts your frequency. And then frequency reorganizes what your subconscious registers as real, and that's where reality begins corresponding. So keep in mind that techniques do not work, conviction works, right? Scripting, visualizing, journaling, affirmations, these are nothing more than different vehicles, but the fuel is the conviction that you actually pour into them. Now, a car without fuel does not move, regardless of the model. So if you're saying affirmations don't work for me, or journaling doesn't work for me, or meditation doesn't work for me, it's because the process itself doesn't matter. It's the feeling of conviction, the feeling, the emotion that actually makes this work. Now, step 5, you have to maintain the frequency throughout the day. Visualization in the morning, think of it like you're putting on a coat, a jacket, right? Now, throughout the day, as you get caught up in life, maybe you're moving around a lot, things get hot, you take the jacket off. Until the jacket is eventually in a closet or it's on the floor and you're back to your old frequency. Now, most people, what they'll do is actually pray for prosperity for 1 hour and then spend 10 hours in the state of consciousness of poverty. right? This is why people say, oh, I pray, but my prayers don't get answered. Yeah, because you're in a state of abundance during the prayer, and the second you leave that prayer, you're taking the jacket off. You're now back into a state of scarcity, of poverty, of lack, of fear. That jacket of abundance that you put on by doing the practices we talked about has to stay on all day long. And the only way it stays on is if you stay conscious of it, right? Now, I say do the visualization in the morning because, one, you're brainwashing yourself before the brain can you're brainwashing yourself before the world can brainwash you. And two, you calibrate your frequency before the world calibrates you. Now, if you do this visualization process at night, you can, but it might be damage control because you've already been slapped around all day by your reality, right? It's better to do it earlier in the morning when you're at a clean slate. And so basically you're setting your frequency for the day. Now the day will recognize you as the version of you that you are becoming. You're actually putting that jacket on as you start the day. So I recommend doing the visualization process in the morning. Now, what you want to do to keep that jacket on, to stay in the frequency of abundance, is you would pick one sentence that you would think to yourself if you were already in your desired reality. Not a whole list, just one thing. For example, wow, making this amount of money is so easy. Wow, I'm so grateful to be in a healthy relationship. Wow, I always knew I'd get this promotion. One line that you're going to use anytime you have a thought of doubt or negativity to put that jacket back on. And that single line is what you want to saturate your day with. When you're brushing your teeth, you repeat that line. When you're showering, eating lunch, when you're working, spending time with family, you want to repeat that line as many times as you can throughout the day so that the loop continues to run underneath the surface and penetrates your subconscious. Now, what this actually does is that the more you saturate your state of consciousness with that one line, the longer the jacket will actually stay on until eventually it stops being a jacket, right? It actually will adhere. It actually becomes who you are. And at that point, the reality has no choice but to materialize. Now, moving along to step 6, normalization. You're treating your desired reality like a fancy watch behind a glass at a store, right? Beautiful, but far away, separated from you by a barrier. And that very perception keeps the barrier in place. So anything you have in life, you take for granted. It is our human nature. It's just how we are. So the question would become, when are you going to start treating your desired reality and taking it for granted? When are you going to start taking your desired reality for granted? For example, a watch, right? At one point, this watch I'm wearing, I wanted the watch. I bought the watch. Now, every time I put the watch on, I'm not thinking about it. I don't admire the watch the way I did before I bought it. You understand? It's just normal to me. I don't stop and gasp at my watch. And that casualness of me I put the watch on, that's the indication that I have the watch. You have something for a long time, you normalize it, you internalize it, you don't think about it. Now you have to apply that same sort of casualness ahead of time to what you're actually trying to materialize. So don't think, wow, it would be life-changing to make this kind of money. It has to be just like, yeah, whatever, like, I always knew I'd make this money. You have to be nonchalant, you have to be normal about it. Because the more importance you tie to something, the more distance you actually have from that thing. Importance is interpreted in the universe as energetic space. So the more importance you have behind something, the bigger the gap will actually be. So we have more importance when we haven't done enough inner work, right? If you feel like you need something, you have not done enough inner work, because once you've actually generated the emotional intensity that we talked about in step 4 and shifted your wants into haves, as we talked about in step 3, then the importance naturally drops because your subconscious is already convicted that you have that thing. So example, again, the watch. I don't think, oh my God, I should put my watch on because it's already on my wrist. That would be stupid. So my subconscious is already convinced I have this watch. That's the normalization you have to have about the thing you're trying to manifest. Keep in mind, the definition of manifestation is when you internally feel like you already have your desired reality to the point where you're no longer emotionally dependent on seeing anything change in the physical reality. Manifestation is when you feel like you already have it, mentally. So convicted that you have it that you don't feel like you need it, right? Think about this. If you already had what you wanted, would you even spend a single ounce thinking about how to get it? No, because you already have it. That's how you have to think to get your manifestation to materialize. So the whole game of manifestation is the inner shift, and then reality is downstream. All your materializations are an effect of the cause, and the cause is always going to be your mental state. Step 7, relaxation. Relaxation is not a soft thing, right? It's not an optional add-on. It's actually the medium through which your desired reality will unfold. You have to be in a relaxed state to manifest your desired reality. You cannot be overwhelmed with anxiety and stress. It won't work. Think about water and a boat. You're both the boat and the water in this analogy. The boat in this analogy would be the destination, as in step 1. We talked about crystal clear clarity. So that's a tongue twister. We talked about crystal clear clarity. So in this analogy with the boat and the water, the boat is the thing you're trying to manifest, and the water is your daily state of being. Now, the calmer the water actually is, the easier the boat reaches its destination. If there's choppy water, as in you're anxious, as in you have too much urgency, stress, if you're gripping too tight on the outcome, the boat will thrash around, and it will take way longer for it to actually get to its destination. It's just going to go nowhere. So you have to stay in a calm, relaxed state for this to work and work fast. Now, when you are relaxed, your brain is in alpha and theta states. And the same states that make the door to your subconscious mind open is the state you will be in when you're in a relaxed state. So the more relaxed you are, the more open and programmable your subconscious is to internalize your desired reality, which means every moment you spend relaxed, you're passively re-imprinting your desired reality into your subconscious. Tension is what closes the door. Anxiety is what closes the door. You must stay relaxed. Now think about John 3:27 in the Bible, where it says a man cannot receive unless it's given to him from heaven. And heaven, in this reading, is your inner state. Heaven is bliss. Heaven is peace. Heaven is calm. And that serenity is not the reward of the materialization. It's actually the condition required to materialize that thing. So application for this step would be for you to treat being calm as a job, not a luxury. You want to intentionally do things that keep you in a calm state. And if you notice yourself gripping, thinking about how bad you want or how bad you need it, if you feel like you're being urgent, if you're trying too hard, think about that water churning. It's going to take longer. So slow down your breathing, slow down your decisions, slow down your reactions, and then re-enter the day. If you find yourself in that state, don't try and do more action. Take 60 seconds, 90 seconds, focus on your breath, calm down, come back to a relaxed state, and then proceed with taking aligned action, which is step 8. The you don't need to take action thing around manifestation is wrong. It's totally wrong. This is why people think it's woo-woo. You have to take action, but the action has to be aligned action. Now, there are 3 planes of existence: the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. And all 3 have to be aligned. The physical plane is action, right? Action is unavoidable. Brushing your teeth requires action. Tying your shoelaces requires action. Living requires action. So the issue isn't whether or not you should take action, it's whether or not the action is actually aligned with your state of consciousness. Now, think about this. This is the multi-dimensional sequence of events. This is the chain of how things actually unfold in reality. So your state of consciousness, your self-concept, your frequency is the biggest domino. This is the cause. All these other things are downstream from this, right? Then you have your intuition. This is what you download when you're in this state. Intuition is what you're just going to feel called to do. Then there's nudges. This is the internal pulls that are impulsive. Call this client, post this reel, talk to this person, say this. Once you're in a state of consciousness where you're open and receptive, you will have intuition and feel nudged to do certain things. Now you have to then act on those nudges. Speed to action when it comes to feeling a nudge, feeling an inclination to do something. That is the universe guiding you. This is why I say you don't have to worry about the how. That will be revealed to you through intuition and through nudges. So you take action on those nudges, and then that's when your reality actually starts to materialize. But everything is downstream from your self-concept, from the way you see yourself, from your frequency, and from your state of consciousness. Now, if your state of consciousness is already in the desired reality, like we talked about, your intuition is going to deliver nudges that lead to actions that you've never taken before. Actions that match your new reality. People say it's flow state. I'm sure you've heard that before. This is when you're not thinking about what to do. It's just coming naturally, and this comes from your self-concept, right? Your actions will naturally be aligned actions, like I just said, that will match the new reality. You will be acting as if you already have that materialization, which is what will bring it in. So you execute the nudges, then the actions will actually land. They will have significance, and the reality will follow after that. Now, misaligned action, this is where most people get stuck, okay? They take action for a result while sitting in the state of consciousness opposite to that result. Does not matter how hard you've worked. If you are on a frequency of lack, of scarcity, of fear, no action taken out of survival mode is going to bring you freedom. Doesn't matter how hard you work. No action taken out of poverty is going to bring you wealth. No action taken out of an unfit state of consciousness is going to bring you fitness, right? If you mentally see yourself to be an unfit person, you will never be fit, right? Now, let's talk about dating as an example. This is a great example. Let's say you're putting yourself out there to meet someone, but internally your state is, this generation sucks. Everyone out here is horrible. These women are hoes. They're all on OnlyFans. Your frequency is going to directly contradict the date you're trying to go on. You understand? The universe will appear to be against you, but the truth is you are against you. So some practical application on how to apply this would be, before any major action, check the state of consciousness that it's coming from. And if the state contradicts the goal, do the inner work that we talk about in steps 3, 4, and 5 first, and then only act on nudges that originate from the new state, not from panic, scarcity, or survival. Now, the final step, and this is the hardest one for most of you, is letting go. Okay, letting go is not action. It's a realization. And the realization is this. You don't actually want the thing. You want the feeling that you think that thing will give you. And we were once all connected to the infinite, right? When we descended into the physical plane, we were separated from it. Now, most of life is spent trying to feel whole again, fulfilled. And we project that wholeness onto external objects, onto people, onto outcomes, onto achievements. And behind every single desire you have, there is a feeling. Every single one. So when you think you want money, what you really want is security. What you really want is safety. What you really want is freedom. When you think you want that partner, what you really want is to feel cherished. You want to feel supported. You want to feel loved. When you think you want that promotion, what you really want is recognition. What you really want is status. What you really want is confidence, appreciation, right? When you think you want the yacht, the Ferrari, the house, the deal, whatever, you want that feeling that you've never let yourself have, right? So keep that in mind. You don't want the thing, you want the feeling. And if having the thing would make you feel a certain way, then feeling that way will lead you to the thing, right? And the feeling is both the cause and the effect. And once you can cultivate that feeling internally through doing the work we talked about in step 3, 4, and 5, then you've already collapsed the gap and your manifestations are on the way. Now, what letting go actually means is when you reach a state where you're good with materializing your desired reality, and you're good if you don't materialize your desired reality. Understand? And most people, they're good with internalizing it. They love to have it. However, they're not good without. And the not good without is the leak. It's the crack in the foundation. It's the proof that the subconscious has not been convinced that you already have your desired reality. And when the subconscious is convinced, that dependency you feel will naturally dissolve. And that's when it shows up. So, in summary, you have to understand everything is downstream of an inner shift. And manifestation is feeling you already have it, right? So just to summarize all the steps that we went over, right? Let's go run it through one more time into I have thoughts. Step 4, emotional generation. Am I visualizing simple, specific scenes that produce that real feeling? Step 5 is maintain frequency. Do I have one line that I'm running through my head every single hour of the day? Step 6, normalization. Am I treating this reality as already mundane to me? Step 7, relaxation. Are the waters calm enough for the boat to move? Step 8, aligned action. Is the action coming from the new state or from the old one? And finally, step 9, letting go. Am I good with it? And am I good without it? Now you have a full-fledged blueprint on how to manifest your desired reality. And what I'm going to put in the description is my AI manifestation generator. And what this will actually do if you use this is give you a practical daily practice on how to apply every single thing I just taught you. So go ahead, check the link in the description and check that out. And if you found this video valuable, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And I am super excited for you guys to come back to this video, save it, come back when you've manifested your desired reality, and share your win with everyone who is watching this video to let them know that this works. However, I'm so grateful that you spent some time with me, and I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next video.